BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
The following podcast contains some strong language and adult themes. The sort
Mad, innit?
The sort of thing that we call fun stuff. If you don't like bad words, this pod probably isn't for you. Back stronger. What the hell was that?
Oh, God, it's like bargain hunt.
Has Wayne Rooney got big shins?
But I genuinely have had a problem with Alsatians ever since.
What is Carl?
I've always wondered that.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
When you say dirty undies everywhere,
Banging music.
some kind of sex burglar.
It was so loud.
I've enjoyed that one massively.
That's about it. Right, we're here for another episode of That Peter Crouch podcast. I'm Peter Crouch and I'm with Chris Stark and Tom Fordyce, right, boys?
We're fine, mate. Can we kick things off by saying massive congratulations for the
Crouchy, come on.
Thanks,
little baby? What do you want here? A round of applause or
no, just the beers that you bought me.
Do you know what? We've got you a little something because we're blokes. We haven't wrapped it very well at all. So just accept it.
That's fine, though. You do the same.
Oh, look at that.
What does it say?
Come on, read it out.
Oh, God, didn't even see it. It's born stronger. Oh, that's
Now, look, some people would call that tacky. I think it's potentially a great way of passing the pod. So if you could just slip baby into that and put a photo on Twitter, it'd be
Steve Ott's going to be going to little baby classes. If he can wear that.
Yeah, he'll be fine. They won't bully him. Although at that age, they don't really bully each other, do they? So, you know.
Quite passive form of bullying, isn't it?
He might get bullied if his name's Divock.
So talk us through the name decision then.
Yeah, I had to actually come out and say his name isn't actually Divock Samrat. That was a gag. But for me, Divrat was a lovely name. I thought... Ab said to me, you've got to tweet it. Go. It's brilliant.
I can't think of another celebrity that has announced a fake baby name as their baby name. I can't think of one. I think it will always live with the baby as well. I don't think, whatever happens in their life, I think there will always be little Divrat to us.
Do you know, we were looking at him the other day, he was so beautiful and innocent.
Yeah.
And Divock seemed like a good name for him. It feel like it's sort of stuck a bit.
Do you think, is there any chance it might? No. Come on.
I don't think so.
I think it's going to be tricky to think of a better name.
Well, I just think whatever we go for now is not going to live up to Divock Samrat.
Yeah.
So, this week's episode of the pod, boys, it's all about penalties. Every week is a different topic. So if this is your first listen, there are plenty more available in our box set. Before we talk about penalties, though, a few listener messages to get us started. Here's a tweet from Nick Hall. Nick says, I'm also 38, Crouchy's age, and I lived in Singapore until the age of 6. I'm not Turu, but we may have gone to the same school. Tanglin School?
Ooh. I don't know what my school's called. I don't know. I only know it in Mandarin, and that's written in English.
We've not heard from young Turu.
Turu.
We've not heard from
I was hoping Turu would come out of the woodwork, but...
yeah.
I don't think Turu would be a fan of this podcast.
Why not?
Not when I met him in Wimbledon when he was like...
He'd changed. I get a sense of sadness from Crouchy.
It was a bit sad, yeah.
Chris,
It
about
wasn't
this,
the same Turu that I remember.
And I can understand that sadness, because if you formed a bond with someone at the age of 3...
Yeah, it's sad, yeah. I think we just went different paths, you know.
This one's from Craig. I once saw you at a festival in 2013 when you were backstage with Serge from Kasabian, Miles Kane and Leighton Baines. Me and my mate asked the bouncer to ask you for a photo. He told us that you or Serge would only have a photo if we bought you a Jaeger bomb each. We told the security man to piss off.
Do you drink Jaeger bombs on a night out?
I do accept Jaeger bombs.
I think it's quite nice in a way that I could offer you something for that in exchange.
I haven't thought of it like that, actually.
Yeah.
So if someone comes over to me next time and say, well, what are you offering me?
Yeah. Which will make you look like a total twat.
Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it like that, Crouchy.
What have you got to offer?
Well, what I'm saying is if you listen to this right now and you see Crouchy out, I don't think there's anything wrong in you see a celebrity, go over with a Jaeger bomb. You know, if it's on the train or something, go with one of those, gin and tonics in a can.
A friend of mine asked David Hay for a picture, and he told him that he had to do 20 press-ups. So he said, fuck off.
Not that bothered.
All right, got a message from Rock and Runner 85. He's written this. You're Blackburn Rovers manager on my football manager game. It's the year 2037. Oh, this is good. So it's a look into the future for you, this. Do you want to hear your stats?
Are you happy?
Well, my stats as a manager.
Yeah.
Are you happy with being Blackburn manager, by the way, in 2037?
I think it's a decent job.
Yeah, well, you don't know what investment's gone into the club by that point, do you?
That's true, yeah. Well, Venky's have pulled their finger out, yeah.
Right, discipline. Out of 20, what would you rate yourself?
Are you running a tight ship as a manager, or are your players out on the smash in Blackburn every night?
Yeah, it's not going to be. Yeah. There'd be a bit of lenience, but I think you need to be disciplined as a manager, yeah.
Yeah, so you got 6 out of 20.
I think that's harsh.
This is a great topic, Tom. Financial control.
Crouchy, what do you think you would get for financial control?
He wanted to spend 50 grand on a slide.
Yeah, but I'm also really wary of fraud.
It's very true, yeah. You've got 11 out of 20 for financial control.
Yeah, that's fair.
Professionalism, you scored very highly on that, actually, on this. 16 out of 20.
Yeah, I'd expect that.
Ambition, the same.
That's the good news, Crouchy. Tactical knowledge, 7 out of 20.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah? My only fear with this, Crouchy, is when we look at those numbers, so tactical knowledge poor, man management poor, discipline poor, ambition high, you're coming across like the David Brent of football management.
That looks to me like I would win most improved manager at the end of season awards. Well done for trying.
Here's one from Ben. Ben says, I recently came across a That Peter Crouch podcast shirt selling on eBay for £2.20. I'm finding this slightly disturbing, Chris, that a loyal ambassador is trying to make money out of his status.
Is that where we are, yeah? Is that what you think's happened? An ambassador has put it on eBay?
I fear so, yeah.
Is that, or someone's making hooky shirts and then selling them? Because,
I see.
you know, they're in such high demand, these shirts.
What?
Actually, there's probably a good business in fakes.
Oh, that's what I thought. But then, obviously, with it being on eBay for £2.20, it's not a great sign, is it?
Do you ever wonder as well, like, I've got babies on the brain at the moment, do you ever wonder how many people are sort of wearing it for kicks? You know, like lingerie sort of thing. Like, it's like, God, put the shirt on.
I don't think that.
You don't think that's happened once?
Oh, blimey. Okay.
And that is not going in.
No, is it not?
You haven't done it yourself?
I haven't, no.
Worth asking, but it's...
Have you?
Tom?
No, I haven't. But look, people get to a state with a relationship, don't they, where they need a little fristle.
Yeah,
they need a little kick. And there might be... I think you're right, Chris. Somewhere in the country, someone has just raised a little eyebrow and gone, just pop that T-shirt on for me.
Let us know.
Well, I've got one here. This one's from Liam. He says, my mum's boyfriend is a builder and ended up building Dennis Wise's new house. I was about 7 at the time, a massive Chelsea fan, so me and my big cousin ended up helping out on the site during school holidays. One day, Dennis came down and gave my cousin around £100 in scrunched up notes. When he noticed that little old me, he handed me a 20p coin.
That's 20p? Come on.
20p?
My first question about this, Crouchy, Liam was 7. Yeah. Should a 7-year-old be allowed on a building site?
No. I think this happens at football, at training grounds quite a bit. You know, in the school holidays, a couple of lads they haven't got anyone to mind the kids, so they just bring them in to training. I think that's what's happened at the building site here.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
I can imagine Pulis sending them out on a long lap of the training fields.
Yeah.
All these 5-year-olds running 6 miles.
You have to imagine some managers are better with kids than others.
I've done it myself, brought my little girl in a couple of times. Great for the kids. I mean, you got like young lads, boys or girls, whatever, they come in, just end up playing football on one side of the pitch or something.
It's the best. I'd probably always be ill if I was a child in the hope that I could go to work with you.
That's a massive tip, £100 to be fair. It's a decent tip, isn't it? And,
20p though for
the 20p.
That's nothing for a 7-year-old nowadays.
What's he going to buy? Actually, what can you actually buy with 20p now?
It's Dennis Wise's house. It's a small house, isn't it? Most likely. Can it not be built by a child in that sense? Like it's just
out of Lego.
That's what I mean. If anything, a child could probably relate to. You size the doors and everything like that.
Maybe they were using him as a prototype Dennis Wise.
Yeah.
Like they were putting him through the doorways. He's fine for a 7-year-old. Dennis will love this.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
One thing I've always wondered with you, Crouchy, on the basis that a penalty is often a free goal for a striker, and a striker's reputation is fundamentally made by how many goals they score, why have you taken so few penalties?
Yeah, it's a weird one, really. I look back on it. It's probably something that I'll regret. I look at how many penalties, like the 100 Club, whatever. There's a lot of players in there who ahead of me with a lot of penalties, you know. And if I could have scored more pens, maybe it would have added to it. But in all honesty, there's always been a regular penalty taker. I've never really gone against that. I went against it once and regretted it. Deservedly missed.
What do you mean you went against it?
I hadn't scored for Liverpool and Steven Gerrard was the regular penalty taker, and I just took the ball and said, I'm taking it. I haven't scored for ages.
Talk me through that, please.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, I was in a dark place, not scoring goals, and Steve let me have it, thankfully, against.
But do you have a chat to him? I said,
I'm having it. I want it. It's mine.
It's not.
And he was like, fair play, let me have it. I missed the pen. Keeper saved it, and it bounced out to Bolo Zenden, who put it in. And
that's lucky, isn't it?
well, it was lucky, but I don't know. Bolo was running off celebrating, and I just went to the ground.
Do you get an assist for that?
I think I probably do. Yeah.
Silver linings.
Oh,
I've never really thought about that.
Three fantasy points didn't quite cut it.
Crouchy, in that situation though, so you've decided you're going to take it. So you've got to face Gerrard, and you've already said amazing stories about him previously, as in, you know, he gives you that look or whatever, but you've given him the look this time, so he knows you mean business. Yeah. At this point, does Benitez start standing up and like shouting, "No"?
I don't. Do you know what? I was so.
How does it work? Like, what?
I was so in the zone. It was a real drought for me, obviously, and
18 games.
Yeah, there's a lot of games, and I just signed for Liverpool. And to be honest, all the lads wanted me to score. You could tell the fans wanted me. It was like everyone was willing me to score and do well. And I think, you know, Stevie, like everyone was sort of like for me taking the pen, really, just to get the monkey off my back. And it sort of just was worse because I missed it, and then it was like, oh god, and I went another couple of weeks without scoring, whatever. So
that's a nightmare scenario.
It was horrendous. I mean, it was the worst footballing sense situation that you can be in as a forward signing for a massive club. People say, "Oh, just get one under your belt," and you know that it's gone then, isn't it? And I just couldn't get one, and obviously missing that pen. I've never been so like adamant that I was taking a pen, cop end, for Liverpool. Like it didn't even enter my head that Gerrard's the captain of Liverpool and this game's a big game for us.
Fans must have been thinking.
Didn't even like enter my head. It was only afterwards when I thought like it's like an out of body experience.
You missed your penalty. I'm kind of obsessed with this idea that you've missed your penalty, your opportunity to score for Liverpool. I take it it's not in any of the players' interest to give you much stick then.
Yeah, well, Rafa came in. I mean, he went mental after. I mean, he said, "Look, I put the names up on the board for a reason." He said, "I'm the manager." Basically disrespected, you know, my wishes, which is totally right. I deserved it. I had to apologise
to Rafa or the team?
At the end of the game to Rafa and the team.
So you had to stand up in the dressing room?
Yeah, I just said sorry. Yeah.
What did the players say?
No, they were fine. They understood it, but obviously Rafa was like, "Well, you're totally undermining my wishes." It's like him telling someone to play right back and going, "No, I'm playing left back."
Was that straight after the game that Rafa came and pulled you to one side, like before you go into the dressing room? And
I think
as in, why did you apologise when you were then in the dressing room? Do you know what I mean?
No, I apologised because I went against the actions of the manager. Could have cost the team dearly. And there's been other occasions where, you know, Rafa doesn't care about me. He cares about the team winning games. In all honesty, a lot of people wanted me to score, even Stevie himself. And I think Rafa did give Stevie a little bit for allowing it, you know?
What?
For like allowing me to take the penalty, you know? It's not what he asked us to do, so therefore it's wrong. But I think everyone could see that I was going through a real tough time and wanted me to score. And, you know, half the crowd wanted me to take the penalty.
So what was it like when you did finally break your duck for Liverpool?
I was an event. I mean, the roof of, honestly, Anfield's roof came off. It was amazing when I finally did score. Like, it was relief for everyone.
When Gerrard came running up to you, when Carragher sprinted from the other side of the pitch, what was it they said to you? Do you remember?
No, I mean, the sheer elation of scoring the goal was... Well, I mean, it wasn't even my goal, it was an OG.
Keeper's lobbed
Don't
it in.
say that, mate.
Oh, mate, it didn't take two. It didn't take one deflection, it took two. And it looped off in some bizarre direction. And Mike Pollitt tried to palm it over the bar, palmed it into his own net somehow. And it took an age to go in. But then I ran down the side of the stand, and just high-fiving all the fans. And I remember Carragher, Alonso, Finnan, Hupia, they were all running after me. I've got a great picture at home of it, where we're all running down and you can see the whole stand. And if you look at everyone's individual faces in the crowd.
Carragher's heat map in that game, there was a moment that he ran the whole pitch. It would have been.
And afterwards, they were looking back and going, "What's happened here?
What went on there?" Ah, yes, Crouchy
Crouch.
scored. And did Benitez whisper in your ear, "I forgive you now"?
No. He has never forgiven anyone for anything.
I've got a quiz question for you, Chris. A penalty-related quiz question, okay? What do Bobby Zamora and Obafemi Martins have in common?
I don't know.
How can we give them a clue, Crouchy?
This could be anything, isn't it?
It's to do with penalties.
The ruthless competitor comes
Yeah.
to the surface. He won't give you an inch
What
there.
have these two done? I mean, it's not going to be something as boring as they always both go the same way.
What's the one thing that almost everyone does the same every penalty?
A little run-up. That's not the answer you wanted.
No.
Kick the ball
And how do they kick the ball?
with their foot.
Which
Which
foot?
one?
What are you on about?
This was a terrible question.
I think you expected a quicker answer.
I think, listen,
People are going to be
they-
shouting this at the moment. What is the answer?
Crouchy?
These two have taken penalties and scored in the Premier League with either foot.
Right.
Yeah.
So to throw the goalkeeper, they're using the other foot? Or is it to show off?
I'm not sure either of them know which is their good foot.
What was the reality like? 2006 World Cup, Portugal, quarterfinals. You get through 90 minutes, you go through extra time, and it's penalties for real.
In 2006, we practiced penalties, and obviously we went out on penalties. But when we practiced them, like I did okay, and I was up for taking one. I wasn't thinking about the one I'd missed or previous ones. Like in the season where I played for Southampton, there was some important penalties. I was our penalty taker then, and I scored an important one last minute against Portsmouth in the derby. I scored quite a pressured one against Crystal Palace. But I would always be up for taking one. I think as a forward, it's your job really, and I think I've not always been designated a penalty taker. I think you can't shy away as a centre forward from a shootout and say, "No, I don't really fancy one." And
That's the worst thing, I reckon. If you're a striker
you can't.
and you don't put yourself forward in a penalty shootout, that is a betrayal of your teammates.
But this is
as well.
what I mean. Are you being honest? Be really honest with us now. Do you promise me you put yourself forward for a...
Yeah, no, I did with England 2006. But if you look at our penalty takers, it was actually like we practiced them. The reason that people will say to me, "Why did Carragher take a penalty?"
exactly,
in that?
yeah.
He was he didn't miss one in the whole time we practiced penalties. He was brilliant, and he sort of just forced his way into the reckoning, you know. But
Were you angry about that?
No, I'm not. I'm not angry about it. No, he deserved to be there.
Were you due to take the next one?
Yeah, I was. I didn't start the game. I was never really in the thinking for pens, you know what I mean? Because it was like I was a sub. When Rooney got sent off, that's when I came on. But yeah, I mean, the penalty takers were good. We had, obviously, Lampard, Gerrard.
Take us inside that huddle.
When we're in there, it's like, who fancies one? What order you want to go in? Sort of our best penalty take went first.
Sven leads that, does he? So Sven in that huddle going...
In honesty, no, the players led most of it, to be honest.
Really? Which ones?
Well, we had a big group of players. I mean, like Neville's, Gerrard's, Lampard's, Carragher's, quite vocal people. So, and obviously the manager will get the order down, and then we'll go from there. And all of those penalty takers were the best for the job at that time.
But 2006, did you want to take a penalty?
Yeah, I was up for taking a pen. I was up for taking one.
How late did that... As you say, you came on as a sub. So I'm sure Sven had a list of, here are my 5 penalty takers of my starting 11. So how late does he make the changes? Does he sort of say, right, if so-and-so's coming off, like if Rooney comes off, then my next penalty taker is Peter Crouch?
The most times I've been involved in shootouts, it's sort of decided at the end of the game, like the manager will ask, right, who fancies a pen? And then people will put their hands
late?
up. Yeah, because who fancies one is the most important thing in a penalty. But I just think as a forward, you've got to put yourself in those situations.
Who's the one that stepped up in your memory that was the most surprising? You were like, fair play.
Ashley Cole has taken some really pressured penalties at big competitions and just rolled them in. And, you know, I wouldn't class him as a penalty taker, but I think he's just got like that temperament. But yeah, they are nerve-wracking. It's a horrible situation to be in. And there are times where I've gone, I'm like, glad I'm not the penalty taker here. You know, like, I'll be honest with you, you have thought that. You're like, good luck.
When you're stood on the halfway line, watching it all.
I mean, it's, you know, but fair play anyone who steps up. I mean,
so you must have seen people shy away from taking penalties.
I've seen people say, no, like, I don't fancy one, yeah.
But how can you say that in front of your team? Do people say that, or do they just go quiet?
Yeah, no.
Don't put a hand up.
Yeah, don't put your hand up.
Like, and then do you find yourself looking around this group going, shit, he really should be taking one?
Dave, you fancy one? Dave, you sure you don't fancy a penalty, Dave?
Just go to the toilet.
Yeah. Dave, where are you going?
Can you imagine watching the penalties, Tom, from the halfway line, though?
It's a long walk, and you don't know whether to jog or walk, touch the ball with your feet, or do you just place it with your hands? I always do this weird thing where I'll put the ball slightly to the right of the spot, so it's not quite on the spot, because in the spot's like a bit of a hole.
Yeah.
And a lot of players do this where you sort of put it on the front edge where it's just lifted up a tiny bit. These are things probably don't think about, but they're important in the mind of a player. And if you feel that, you know, the ball, if the referee makes you take it off that perfect spot you've got and put it back to the spot where it's very fine margins, but it looks like there's a slight hole, and it's just, you know, like
throws you off.
Bit of a divot. You think, is it in a divot? Is it not? You know, they're the tiny little details that can get in your head, and something a keeper does. And I think when you are standing there, and you talk about the huddle, when you're standing there and the first player's going, you don't want to say. People say, oh, what do you say? You don't want to say too little and you don't want to say too much, because I think too much sort of, you need to do this, you need, like, gets in your head and messes you up as well. I think you're best just leaving each individual player. They're there for a reason. They're at a World Cup. They're playing for their countries. Just let them crack on and take the penalty, I think.
Something I was thinking about, the coin toss. Talk us through that. In your opinion, is it better to be shooting first or second?
Yeah, I think first is better in my opinion. I just think there's more pressure going second, and you can set the marker down going first. I think it's much better.
Are you a fan of ABBA?
Yes.
See what I mean? The A, B, B, A.
No.
You can talk about the winner takes it all if you want.
That's not what you were talking about.
I'm still trying to understand the link.
There's a cheesy little, the winner takes it all.
What's the ABBA, Tom?
So the ABBA thing, right?
Yeah.
So usually it's A, B, A, B. So you keep your penalties in the same order. The team that goes first goes first with each successive spot kick.
Yeah.
The ABBA idea is to balance it up. That
It's two penalties.
You then get two in the middle.
Yeah,
in a row.
and you flip it around. Yeah.
What a load of nonsense.
What? Does it not make it fairer?
The winner takes it all.
No, it's not for me.
Great tune.
No, if you lose the coin toss, it's unlucky, isn't it?
Do you know what actual coin in the coin toss?
I don't even know that.
Yeah. That's what I've always
I've not been a captain often, but I don't think it's an actual coin, no.
I don't think it is either.
But that's bizarre. Like, how many games of football I've played? How many coins have I seen tossed? I've seen a lot of tossing.
You don't know. Yeah, and it's mad. And amongst all that tossing, you don't ever see the money.
I see tossing every weekend.
Crazy.
I don't know. That's bizarre.
Things with Crouchy, Chris. Every now and then, like, he's such a genial man. Every now and then we see this brutal warrior peek through, and I got a sense of that where you said, "Well, it's just a time cost." Yeah.
Well, that's what it's for. It's like it's unlucky. I mean, there's worse. The coin toss in cricket's even more important, isn't it? It's unlucky.
They're thinking of binning that off, though, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah.
Where's it going? Are we going to lose the coin toss completely?
Do you love the coin toss?
Well, I just think it's. I think it's a tradition. I think if you start taking penalties out of sync, I don't know.
I'm not a fan of the ABBA idea.
No.
Really?
I've never even heard of the ABBA idea. No, I'm not. But would you bin off penalties for something else? Something like ice hockey, where you have to play it down the pitch and then.
Hockey at the Olympics was decided by, you have a certain period of time to take the ball towards the goal, and you can have 2 or 3 goes at going round the goaltender
One of the games from your garden, maybe.
No, we got plenty of games there. But that one we used to run from the halfway line and have a certain amount of seconds to score. Quite like that idea.
What would your technique be there? Are you just chipping them from a mile out, trying to bend it? Or are you dropping a shoulder and going around them?
No, I'd do a few shimmies and then slot it, I think.
Would you?
Yeah. I think that'd be my technique.
I don't know what I'd rather see. Would it be more fun to see that than penalties?
No, everyone loves pens. Like my mum and like Abby come and watch
does.
pens. She says to me, if there's a pens, give me a shout. Honestly, she does. It's like, everyone wants to see a pen. It's great. It's a pressure situation. There's losers and winners, and it's intense. It's drama.
It is intense.
But is that not the whole problem with penalty shootouts?
But what are the alternatives? Because think about it. Penalties is really a strike. It's goalkeeping and goal scoring. Now, if you're a solid defender, why aren't you being judged on that at the end? Like, why couldn't we make something which is like, bear with?
It's like Pulis would set up a thing where you lob a ball in the air and two people go out for a header, and the person who wins the header goes a point up.
Yeah,
the Pulis penalty.
Piggy in the middle, that sort of thing. Like, or
I know what you mean. There's so many different skills in football that we're not using here.
Two defenders, you have one striker, and their job is to basically get hold of the ball and then clear it. We could do three different things.
What about that one? Do you remember that game where you're in a box and you've all got a ball each? And you've got to look after your own ball, but whilst kicking everyone else's ball out.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Last man standing.
And then you've got different skills being applied. It's very blunt tool penalties for what is a beautiful game.
It's an oversimplification, Chris. I think you're onto something there.
Just out of interest, what would your technique be in that situation? Where you've all got a ball each. Are you one of those that leaves your ball and runs and kicks one out? Or would you just try and ghost around a bit?
Let everyone else knock themselves out. Just look after your own ball.
That's what I mean, ghost around.
Ghost for a bit.
Yeah, at that
Don't
point,
kick anyone's ball out. Keep yourself quiet.
But narrow it down to numbers, then I would leave the ball to go.
When you're 1v1, I think it's leave the ball.
Mano.
Yeah, just go and munch someone.
Imagine the World Cup final.
Imagine that.
10 balls.
Pirlo's left his ball to go and munch someone.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
I met Ricardo for this thing I was working on, right? It was amazing insight because I hated him because obviously being an England fan when that was on. Was it that tournament or the tournament before where he took his gloves off to save a penalty? I'd love to get your view on that.
Well, in all honesty, that's just psychological, isn't it? I mean, it just gets in something that's a little bit different. Couldn't get in the kicker's head, and I think we talk about Grobbelaar and what he did, the spaghetti legs, and some goalkeepers are running around on the line, some very stationary. One will be slightly in one corner. It's all mind games, and I think there's no greater mind game in football than a penalty kick. It's you versus the goalkeeper, and so much to think about. If you think about the millions of people at home watching, the crowd in the stadium, what end do you kick it? Is it the team for you? Is it against you?
But Ricardo said to me that he was in your head. I know what you're going to say, that he would say that. But when you look at those penalties, something's happened there, right? Because if that was the best series of penalty takers that we could have had, it didn't work.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I do think that there was a bit of a stigma associated with England and penalties as well. And I think that to some degree, we banished that this summer.
I love this idea that goalkeepers try to get in your head, whatever you do. There's a few examples I'm thinking of. There was one Champions League final, Manchester United, Chelsea, went to a penalty shootout. And Avram Grant had read a paper by a Basque economist which predicted which way each of the players would go. And it works for Chelsea all the way through the first 5 penalties until it gets to Anelka. And someone on the United bench has clearly twigged what's happening. And then Van der Sar points to the left. And he points to the left and you can see it gets in Anelka's head. And Anelka goes that way and Van der Sar saves it. And that's the Champions League gone in that moment.
It's amazing. It really is. And like I said, it's smallest margins. But people say to me, you can never recreate, that atmosphere and, what's the point of practicing and things like that. But There's no getting away from the fact that the best penalty takers do practice, the best free kick takers practice. And I just think it's muscle memory. So when you are in that position of taking a penalty, you can't recreate an atmosphere, of course you can't, but the muscle memory you do recreate, because you know that you've taken that penalty 10,000 times in the last 10 days. You know you can do it, and it's just a case of doing it. And I think you'd be more confident taking the penalty if you've practiced it.
But that's one penalty. Isn't that the problem?
Yeah, but
you watch a keeper go stand in the spot that you're planning on kicking it.
No, but you know you need a range of penalties. You can't just have one penalty. But what I'm saying is you practice a range of penalties, and you know that you could put it in any position because you've practiced it. And I think people who say you shouldn't practice penalties because you can't recreate, it's a load of nonsense. I mean, I watched David Beckham take free kicks. After every training session, he'd take 10 free kicks. He wouldn't take 100, he'd take 10 after every session. And that's why he's as good as he was. Frank Lampard was the same with penalties, just after every session.
When we think about what goalies have done to try and put penalty takers off, or to understand what the penalty taker is going to do, think of Jordan Pickford with his message on his water bottle at the World Cup.
Yeah.
My fear with that, Chris, as someone who hasn't played in the World Cup, would be writing on a water bottle there's a flaw with that plan, isn't there?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
He picks up the water bottle and it's just like,
yeah.
what? Can he remember who's meant to be doing what?
Yeah.
It's a good point, because I think that it's changing now, isn't it? Like, I'm sure you're allowed an iPad on the bench now. But
That's
that rule's
crazy.
only just come in last year.
Because when does that end? Because soon goalkeepers will have an earpiece or something, and it will be...
Well, did you see Ronaldo recently? It was the Nations League final or semi, wherever it was. It's just all a game, isn't it? Like, if Ronaldo's walking up and you're about to take a penalty and you see Ronaldo talking to the goalkeeper, you go like, this is, arguably the best player in the world ever. It's like, does he know? Does he know where I'm going?
Would it be quite tempted just to smack it at Ronaldo's arse?
Yeah.
What would put you off? Like, if a goalkeeper were looking for something to say, what would cut you?
I don't think there's a lot now. I think if someone told me like a bizarre joke or something, like something totally off topic. What are you having for dinner tonight? So I don't know, something like totally different. That might put me off a touch, but saying you're going to miss or we know where you're going, it's all an act.
Maybe they should butter you up, like flip it around, Chris, rather than going for the sledge.
They kill you with kindness.
Kill you with kindness.
Yeah.
Crouchy, you're definitely going to score this penalty. I haven't got a chance.
Yeah.
I've seen you. You're good.
Your Ted Baker range is fantastic.
It manages to make clothes for the larger man look elegant and sophisticated. Stick it over the bar, bang.
Yeah, that would throw me. I think if you're complimenting my range.
Interesting one, wasn't it?
The Panenka penalty, Crouchy, is always a slightly controversial one, particularly if you get it massively wrong in a big match.
Yes, this has happened to me. I have tried a Panenka, full of confidence. I'd scored 2 goals against Jamaica for England. I was on my hat-trick, got everyone off the ball, I'm taking the pen, and went for a dink, as it was called back then. And I dinked it into Stretford end. It's highly embarrassing. Keeper went for it as well. One of those, if I'd have just sort of like side-footed it down the middle, sort of anywhere in the middle of the goal, it would have been fine.
You could have rolled it.
But I went for a dink with the laces. I was full of confidence, went for a dink with the laces and just sailed over the bar. It was so embarrassing. I've got to be honest, I'd done the robot a couple of times in those circumstances. And when that penalty went over, I thought to myself, I'm never going to have another chance to score a hat-trick for my country again. And you've just tried a Panenka.
I think that teaches you for being cocky.
Yeah, exactly right. And I felt like the biggest knob going. And thank God the ball came to me. I finished it off and got a hat-trick after that. But there was no robot then. I was like, if you've seen the celebration for that goal, it was pure aggression because I was just angry at myself for almost giving up the chance of a hat-trick for England. I mean, I've got the ball at home. All the lads have signed it. Mostly giving me stick for the pen, to be honest. But, thankfully I've got that moment where, I can show my kids I scored a hat-trick for England, there's the ball. But I almost didn't have that just from being stupid.
But you'll have to omit the penalty story in that. That's going to always annoy you, isn't it?
No, because it's a funny story now, so I quite like saying it because I've got the hat-tricks, it's a happy ending.
Go away with it.
But
you didn't do the robot because it
because
annoyed you so much at the time.
I was so angry with myself. And then afterwards, I remember Steve McLaren was assistant to Sven, was like, don't ever do that. He sat me down, he was like, don't ever do that again. Taking the piss, you're playing for England.
I've already ploughed it into YouTube.
Oh, right.
What's amazing is the first thing that comes up is like every conceivable angle. Because the great thing about a penalty, of course, is you have time to get your phone out and start filming because you know there's a goal coming.
Yeah.
So annoying for you that there's probably more videos of this from a fan point of view than any other goal because
Because your goal against Man City, no one's got their phone out in time for that one.
No,
got to see
you got
this.
it
Yeah, well, what
That's
angle
a good
do you
angle,
want?
that.
Everyone's cheering, they've got their hands up, waiting for it. The sun's shining, kids comes Crouchy.
Oh,
What
I've done
a
him as well.
terrible penalty.
Listen
that
to the
is.
noise.
What do you mean you've done him? You've missed it. And then people are laughing at you.
Oh, he can piss off. He's never played for England.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Right, boys, I've been a bit worried about you two putting a festival together, Crouch Fest, on your own. It's just around the corner, so I've brought in an expert consultant, Serge from Kasabian. How are you, mate?
Good, mate.
All good,
I like
yeah.
that title.
You like
Consultant,
that?
yeah.
Consultant.
The trickiest thing was finding a venue.
Got ya.
But
So-
I learned that you can book the O2. We're going to deal with the finances and everything after the event.
This is
We're sort of ploughing on.
the O2.
But mate, what's great is there's
O2.
quite a bit
Who's
of interest.
playing? Who you got?
Well, they-
Fleetwood Mac.
No,
I feel like we should have brought Serge on board earlier. But he found the whole Serge in our plan. I've got a few more questions about Crouch Fest, right? Because we are festival virgins in terms of putting one on. So, right, we've got a few bands playing.
Okay.
What should they expect? What should we lay on as a rider? Some crisps, some nibbles?
Yeah, look after them. Just the standard, really.
beers.
Yeah,
Loosen
few
them up.
beers, party rings.
party rings.
When we do festivals, and you sort of put in backstage, they're sort of office, like really thin. You know, how sort of you separate offices, really thin walls. So you take a little Bluetooth speaker. Now before every gig, we've always we have it loud. I mean, it's serious. It's hurt. Like it's ridiculous how loud it is. We almost do a gig before we've even gone on. We decided, right, we're going to build the biggest sound system anyone's ever built, right?
Yeah.
And it literally weighs it costs us a fortune to take around the world. When we roll in, it gets wheeled into the dressing room. I swear to God,
This is class.
it's the loudest thing, but it echoes. You imagine like these big old buildings. And just to piss people off, it's the best feeling. It's like the geezer from Blink 182 just knocking on the door going, "Oh, excuse me, guys, you turn it down." And we're like, and then we play as the tour progressed and the weirder we got, we play like Amazon rainforest noises and like monk, sort of Tibetan monks and.
But you're bringing in this system.
Yeah, honestly,
travelling
and then because
it.
obviously after the gig, we're still going, so we're just in. And like one we played in Germany, and like the Arctic Monkeys were next door. Love Cookie, love Alex, great lads. And as they come in for us, turn it up a bit, just to freak them out a bit. And the next day, we obviously had a gig the next day with them. They were like, yeah. They've just moved their dressing room. Like, they're in a building over the road. But
So that's what you've got to do. You've got to get hold of this sound system for
mate, it's
more
good.
games.
Oh, yeah.
You can
Bring
borrow
it
it,
into the
man.
change room. All the players come in. You get
Yeah,
in early.
exactly.
You
Get
have
in
this thing
early.
on. Oh, but imagine the other team as well. There's nothing they can do about it. You've got the Amazon rainforest and all that.
1980s Wimbledon.
Freaky.
Exactly what it is.
At our festival, Serge, right, another key question for me. When we do this podcast, we tend to have 2 to 3 beers, I would say, during the recording of it.
Yeah, nice.
What's our optimum level before we step out on stage at the O2? Where do we want to be sitting?
You're doing the podcast will be live.
Yeah, and there's some bands on, some comparing of the bands, some monkeying
you probably
around.
want to have a couple of beers. I mean, I tell you what's interesting, that when the adrenaline will kick in, and that it wipes away any sort of previous booze. I have sort of a fair amount of rum before I go on stage, because I like to be a little loose. But honestly, when that adrenaline kicks in, because it will happen when you see that crowd, you'll sort of be great. So you can afford yourself a few more than usual. It will level you out straight away when you
That's
get
quite
that buzz.
inspirational. I like this. I like that we've got Sergio before Crouch Fest, just as a bit of a kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Bit of inspiration. It's the team talk.
You've got to be bigger than you. You've got to
Yes,
express yourself bigger than you are. You can't be sort of sat there like this with us now, just chilling. You've got to be massive.
We've got to go big. Have we got to do a
Gotta go
huddle
big.
beforehand, dressing room?
Yeah, a nice little hands in the middle vibe if you want, or you just sort of ignore each other. We kind of usually just sort of do a little nod because it get quite serious before you go on.
Crouchy, Serge, haven't you two been at the O2 together before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got a picture on my wall in the office that Serge kindly gave to me. It's literally, he does this bit where he comes down, and he's singing, and he goes in the crowd, and just so happened that he walked past me, and it was just pure chance. But anyway, so he's given me the mic, so I've sang it. So I've actually sung in front of the O2, yeah.
He's been there before.
I forgot about that.
It's a dangerous bit.
Yeah.
It was just a beautiful moment where just Crouchy went, "Oh, mate!" I was like, "What?" As if I could just hear his voice bellowing out over the whole arena.
How was his voice?
It was pretty good, you know. It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
What was the song? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's
What
called
have you
Treat,
Oh.
and it's a little reprise at the end. But I love those moments. I like when people go away, like getting into the crowd, causing something will happen. And on that particular night, it's like, what a dream, you know what I mean?
I genuinely believe that. Like, I go to gigs and I can sit at the back or at the side in a posh seat and just enjoy the gig. But at Kasabian gigs, I just can't do it. I genuinely
no one
can't do it. I have to, for some reason, I have to get in the mix.
Yeah,
and I think I can get away with it, and then I don't.
That's
It's worth it.
yeah.
It is worth it.
Love
Yeah.
that.
I find you two fascinating as a pair of friends, by the way.
So
Because
obvious
you're both,
though, weren't it? It was so obvious it was going to happen.
but you're both obviously done well with, you know, your relevant careers and that. But there's funny crossovers. Like, I like when you talk about doing your European tour. And Crouchy tells us these stories about how when he leaves to go on a European game, he doesn't really have to pack anything as a kit man, does it all, sorts his pants, everything like that. It's been well talked about.
Yeah.
And I imagine it must be similar when you go on your European tour, right?
But as similar to the football is, I know it's the same with bands. You go there and you don't even realise you do that many tours or that many stops. You don't even know where you are at times. No. You know what I mean? Like it's
definitely
because every hotel looks the same, and you're not staying in nice hotels. They're nice ones. They're okay. But you could be anywhere. Obviously, we have to be in bed at a certain time, otherwise it's going to kill us, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If these are out doing whatever, then
we're in
it's
charge.
seen as good, isn't it?
We're in charge, which is the danger. Like the players being in charge, really.
Yeah, no,
because they can't really. The gig don't happen if players don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've all seen the videos of Crouchy at your gigs. But as a Leicester fan, I'm sure you've got some tales from seeing Crouchy play football, right?
Yeah, I've had some great times. When Pete would always invite us to the box at Stoke, we'd always get a good result there as well. It was always quite painful after, because you obviously really appreciate, you know, the gesture and looked after as well. And we also got the 3 points. So it's like, oh no.
A bit embarrassing, this, yeah.
You didn't look arse when you were giving it massive.
You can see the boxes next door going, oh, we've got to deal with these. Like, you know. But yeah, so it was nice though.
On the flip side of that, some of the best times I've had, like even football-wise, some of the best times I've had have been at Kasabian gigs. Like genuinely.
Yeah,
What do you mean football-wise?
Like I'm talking even football-wise. Like even you know like some of the good things.
Oh,
like
some of the
great
best
things I've
nights
done.
that you've had.
Some of these nights have topped it probably.
Particularly when you merge them. So you scored that goal against Arsenal, didn't you? And then you piled down to the gig and
Yeah,
later that day.
That was when I got done for crowd surfing. Yeah,
That was at Brixton.
Yeah, it was Brixton. Yeah. So
What was your thoughts, Serge, when you see Crouchy surfing?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, he's so completely unique in that you know in the football world where he's just real. You know what I mean? That's what they're the players. They're the stories. I'm a football fan, and if I find out you score a goal and you go and you're seeing a gig at Brixton, it's like you don't get any cooler than that. It's like the players, you know, all those players I loved over the years. That's the story. That's why you go on the terraces and you scream right out. They're the boys you want to scream for.
what I was going to ask is would you swap like what you do now for winning the league? That Leicester team that won the league, like. Yeah, would you swap
question.
what you've done now to have been part
Being
of that?
part of that squad.
Been part of that
Like,
squad?
am I you know, my 25 goaler? I'm not Ben.
Well, let's not go that far, Serge. But you're
You're a Nathan Dyer.
What's that? 3 goals, a couple of assists. Oh my god. Oh my god. See, that's when it gets in. That's when it's a very difficult question to answer. You know what I mean? If I'm Nathan Dyer, I love him, man. But come on, I don't know if I'm.
It's a great career you've
But I would.
no.
No, I mean, he was incredible. That goal against Villa was unbelievable. But it's a killer. It's actually a killer question, that, and I don't know because
it's one.
I don't know if I can answer that.
Scoring an amazing goal is amazing, but it lasts 5-10 sort of seconds, that buzz. When you headline Glastonbury, like what's that, an hour and a bit?
Yeah.
You know, that buzz lasts that long.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
I think because the thing is with me is the creation of things. That's kind of what I'm into, and I think it's a lot harder. There's a lot of set rules as a player. I'd choose the music, or but it'd be so close. The 25 goals hurts me a little bit, but I think the ability to wake up in the morning and to create something is what I'm into more than anything.
And it depends what's local as well, because obviously if I was to say what's given more to the world, clubfoot or the Leicester league title, there's a debate to be had.
There is, because when Spain won the 2010 World Cup, Iniesta said that was the tune they listened to before every game.
Right, yeah.
Oh, hang on a second.
Oh, he told me
There
that.
we go.
He told me that, actually.
Do you believe him, Serge?
Do you know what I do? Because do you remember I was doing the Soccer Aid thing, and there was a table of these great footballers like Ronaldinho, Kafu, and they were talking about the hardest players they played against, and they were dropping massive names like Vieira, Zidane, and then Kafu said Peter Crouch, and I was like, best thing I've ever heard in my. When you just go bang. So I just texted him, went, no, you ain't gonna believe this. Kafu, one of the greatest players of all time, said, hands down, the hardest player he played against. Peter Crouch. I was like, bang. I have some of that.
Well, I'm just thinking with you two boys as well. Like, so you've both kind of had these big careers, and then it's kind of what's next in the world. Is it an exciting time to have kind of conquered everything? A bit like Crouchy's talked about doing, and then
it's
start up on new stuff.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I remember it's amazing. Sort of. I mean, it'd be like Pete doing in the middle of the career, going, right, I'm just going to go and play tennis for a year. Do you know what I mean? Like you're hitting the circuit, mate. It's just a whole different sport. But it's a beautiful the chance to. We decided after the last tour we'd have a year off. Just we'd never done that, never afforded ourselves that luxury. So it was the perfect time. So I went in the studio and just made a little album. There was always little avenues. There was always little places I wanted to go, and sort of turning your personality, like certain aspects of my personality, I just wanted to go and explore and see what it would mean, And also, I'm really happy. The record's great and completely different, and it's just reset my own mind for what I do next with a band,
So obviously Crouch Fest just round the corner. I think it's been the sort of boost that we need ahead of it.
Massively, yeah.
Our first guest on the podcast as well, Crouchy.
Yeah. No one better, eh?
Oh, thanks, boys. Thanks. I'll take that.
Cheers, lad.
Cheers, boys.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.